The morning sun reflected off the glass towers of Seoul Arcology as Lee Min-ho pushed through the crowded transit station. His heart pounded in his chest. Today was the day that would change everything. Today was his final interview at Stellar Dynamics Corporation, the biggest starship company in the entire sector. Min-ho checked his watch again. 35 minutes until his interview. He had planned everything perfectly. Wake up early, take the express transit, arrive 20 minutes early to compose himself. Everything was going according to plan. He adjusted his only good suit and felt the data pad in his pocket. It contained his portfolio, years of work and study. At 22 years old, Min-ho had graduated top of his class in quantum drive engineering. But graduating with honors meant nothing when you came from the lower levels of the city. This job at Stellar Dynamics was his one chance to lift himself and his younger sister Yuna out of poverty. The transit platform buzzed with morning commuters. Humans mixed with various alien species, all going about their daily business. Earth had joined the Galactic Commerce Union only 15 years ago, and the integration still felt new and exciting to Min-ho. He had grown up dreaming of working on real starships, not the old Earth vessels but the advanced ships that traveled between star systems in days instead of years. A loud crash interrupted his thoughts. The ground shook beneath his feet. People screamed and scattered as a small spacecraft dropped from the sky, landing hard on the edge of the platform. Smoke poured from its engine ports. The craft was barely bigger than a ground car, sleek and metallic with designs Min-ho did not recognize. Security alarms blared. Station guards ran toward the crashed vessel but kept their distance. A hatch opened with a hiss of escaping air. A figure emerged from the smoke. The alien was unlike anything Min-ho had seen in person. Its body looked like living crystal, reflecting light in rainbow patterns. It stood on two legs, but its proportions were all wrong by human standards. Its head was angular with multiple facets like a cut gemstone. When it moved, it made a soft chiming sound. The alien stumbled forward, clearly distressed. It spoke in a high-pitched voice, words that sounded like breaking glass. Min-ho's translator implant picked up fragments. Help. Core unstable, please. The crowd backed away further. The station guards talked into their radios but did not approach. Min-ho could see fear in their faces. They did not know what to do with an alien emergency. Min-ho looked at his watch. 30 minutes now. The Stellar Dynamics building was a 15-minute transit ride away. If he left now, he would still make it with time to spare. But then he looked at the smoking ship again. His engineering training kicked in automatically. He could see the problem. The quantum core housing was cracked. The energy signature was all wrong. If that core destabilized completely, the explosion would kill everyone within 100 meters. Maybe more. The alien stumbled again, trying to reach its ship but too weak. It looked directly at Min-ho with eyes that glowed like blue stars. Please, it said in broken standard language. Help. Many die if explode. Min-ho felt time slow down. This was it. This was the choice. His entire future balanced on this moment. If he stopped to help, he would miss his interview. Miss his interview, miss the job. Miss the job, stay poor forever. Yuna would have to drop out of school. They would stay in their tiny apartment in the lower city where the sun never reached. But if he walked away and that ship exploded, Min-ho took a deep breath and ran toward the alien. Stay back, a guard shouted, but Min-ho ignored him. He reached the crystalline being and caught it before it fell. Up close, the alien was surprisingly light and its skin felt smooth and warm like polished stone. I am engineer, Min-ho said slowly. Clearly. I help, you understand? The alien's faceted head turned toward him. Understand. Core unstable. Need emergency shutdown but access panel damaged. Min-ho carefully helped the alien to sit against a bench. Then he approached the ship. The heat radiating from it made him sweat immediately. He could hear a high-pitched whine coming from inside, getting louder. Not good. Not good at all. He circled the vessel, looking for the access panel. There. A section of hull plating had buckled in the crash. He grabbed the edge and pulled. The metal was hot enough to burn, but he gritted his teeth and yanked harder. The panel came free with a screech. Inside, he could see the quantum core, a sphere of contained energy that pulsed with angry red light. The containment field generators were misaligned. That was the problem. If he could realign them, the core would stabilize, but he had no tools. Min-ho looked around frantically. A maintenance cart sat abandoned nearby. He ran to it and grabbed what he needed. A plasma torch, some conductor wire, and a magnetic wrench. Not proper tools for quantum mechanics, but they would have to do. He worked fast. The whine from the core grew louder, more urgent. His hands moved on autopilot, years of training guiding him. Bypass the damaged regulator. Reroute power through the secondary system. Realign the field generators one by one. Sweat dripped into his eyes. His hand shook. The core pulsed brighter, faster. Come on, come on. With a final adjustment, the whine began to drop in pitch. The angry red light faded to a stable blue. The core was contained. Safe. Minho sagged against the hull, breathing hard. He had done it. The ship would not explode. The crystalline alien approached him, moving more steadily now. It reached out and touched Minho's shoulder with a hand that had too many fingers. You saved many lives. You saved me. Grateful beyond words. The alien pressed something into Minho's hand. A small data chip. Payment. Thank you. Must go now. Late for important meeting. The alien climbed back into its ship. The engines, now stable, hummed to life. Within moments, the vessel lifted off and disappeared into the sky. Minho stood there, data chip in hand, and checked his watch. No. No. 52 minutes had passed. His interview had started 7 minutes ago. He ran. He ran faster than he had ever run in his life. The transit seemed to take forever. When he finally burst through the doors of Stellar Dynamics Corporation, he was sweating. His suit was covered in soot, and his hands were burned. The receptionist, a young woman named Kim Ji-woo, looked up from her desk. Her expression was sympathetic but sad. You are Lee Minho? Yes. I am here for the interview. I know I am late, but there was an emergency. Ji-woo shook her head slowly. I am sorry. Director Park Hyun-woo waited 15 minutes. Company policy is very strict about punctuality. He has already offered the position to another candidate. Minho felt the world tilt beneath him. But I saved people. There was a ship, it was going to explode. I believe you, Ji-woo said gently. But the director has already left. The decision is final. I am truly sorry. Minho walked out of the building in a daze. The bright afternoon sun felt like a mockery. He had made his choice. He had chosen to help a stranger instead of securing his future. And now he had nothing. He took the transit back to the lower levels, back to the cramped apartment where Yuna was waiting to hear good news. Back to his life of poverty with no way out. The data chip felt heavy in his pocket, but right now it felt like very poor compensation for his destroyed dreams. The apartment was dark when Minho returned. He stood in the doorway for a long moment, not wanting to go inside. Not wanting to face his sister. Not wanting to admit that he had failed. Minho? Yuna's voice came from the small living space. She appeared in the doorway, her face bright with hope. At 17, she still had that optimism that Minho felt draining from himself with each passing year. How did it go? Did you get the job? Minho could not meet her eyes. He set down his bag and slumped onto their worn couch. I was late. They gave the position to someone else. The hope drained from Yuna's face. Late, but you left so early. What happened? Minho told her everything. The crashed ship, the alien, the unstable quantum core. How he had to choose between his future and the lives of innocent people. When he finished, Yuna sat beside him and put her hand on his shoulder. You did the right thing, she said quietly. The right thing? Minho laughed bitterly. The right thing means you will have to drop out of school. The right thing means we stay in this place where the rent keeps going up and the heating barely works. The right thing just cost us everything. It saved lives, Yuna insisted. That matters more than a job. Does it? Minho asked. Does it really? Those people are alive and they will never know I saved them. Meanwhile, we are still poor. Nothing has changed except now we have no hope left. They sat in silence. Minho felt hollow inside. He had worked so hard, studied so many late nights, sacrificed so much, and one moment of compassion had destroyed it all. Later that evening, Minho remembered the data chip. The alien had pressed it into his hand and called it payment. He plugged it into his old terminal, expecting maybe a small credit transfer. Enough for dinner, perhaps. The screen flickered to life. His eyes widened. The credit transfer was substantial. Not life-changing money, but enough to cover 3 months of rent and food. Enough to give them breathing room while he looked for another job. There was also a personal message. The translation software struggled with it, but the meaning came through. Thank you for your kindness. You risked much to help a stranger. This is small payment for a debt that cannot be repaid. Your actions honor you and your species. With deep gratitude, Vec. So that was the alien's name. Vec. The chip also contained a third file, but it was encrypted. Minho tried several times to open it but failed. He was too tired to care much. At least they had enough money to survive for a while. The next day, Minho began looking for work. His credentials were excellent, but jobs for quantum drive engineers were rare on Earth. Most advanced positions were off-world or required years of experience. The few companies that responded to his applications took one look at his address in the lower levels and stopped returning his messages. After 2 weeks of rejection, Minho took a job at a small repair shop in his district. The owner, an elderly man named Choi Daejin, fixed basic electronics and simple machinery. It was work far beneath Minho's skills, but it paid enough to help with expenses. "You are overqualified for this," Daejin said bluntly on Minho's first day. "Why are you here?" "I need work," Minho replied simply. Daejin studied him with sharp eyes. "You will not stay long. Young people like you with talent, you always move on. But while you are here, you work hard, yes?" "Yes," Minho agreed. The work was mind-numbingly simple. Replacing power cells, soldering broken circuits, diagnosing faulty processors. Minho could do it all in his sleep. But it was honest work, and Daejin treated him fairly. In the evenings, Minho worked on the encrypted file from Vec's data chip. It became almost an obsession. He tried every decryption method he knew, learned new techniques, spent hours staring at strings of incomprehensible code. It was a puzzle, and puzzles had solutions. 3 weeks after starting at the repair shop, a customer came in that changed things slightly. Her name was Kang Minji, a freighter pilot who ran cargo between Earth and the orbital stations. She was in her early 30s, confident and weathered from years in space. "This nav computer is garbage," she announced, dropping the device on Daejin's counter. "Third time this month it has failed. I need it working by tomorrow or I miss my delivery window." Minho examined the device. The problem was obvious to him. "Your nav computer is fine. The problem is your power coupling. It cannot handle the load. Every time you jump to quantum space, it overloads and resets the computer." Minji blinked. "The coupling? But I just replaced that 6 months ago." "You bought a cheap one," Minho said, pointing to the component. "See this rating? It is below spec for your ship class. You need a Class 7 coupling minimum. This is a Class 5. How do you know what ship class I have?" Minho tapped the nav computer. "Model number. Only used in Harrier-class freighters. I can upgrade your coupling if you have the part, or I can modify this one to handle higher loads temporarily." Minji stared at him. "Who are you?" "Lee Minho, I work here." "No, I mean, who are you really?" "You are not a simple repair tech." Over the next hour, while Minho worked on her nav computer, Minji pulled his story out of him. The interview he missed. The alien ship. The job he lost. She listened without interrupting, nodding occasionally. "You know what I think?" she said when he finished. "I think you dodged a bullet. Any company that will not make exceptions for real emergencies is not worth working for." "Easy to say when you have a ship in freedom," Minho replied. "Harder when you are stuck in the lower levels with no prospects." "True," Minji admitted, "but you have skills. Real skills. That matters out there." She gestured vaguely upward toward space. "The galaxy is bigger than one missed interview. You will find your place." Minho wanted to believe her, but belief was hard to hold on to these days. Minji became a regular customer after that. She always asked for Minho specifically, and she always had stories about life among the stars. Stories about alien worlds, about commerce between species, about opportunities that existed beyond Earth's atmosphere. The stories were a bright spot in Minho's routine. 3 months passed. Minho fell into a rhythm. Work at the shop during the day, evening meals with Yuna, late nights trying to crack Vec's encrypted file. The credits the alien had given him ran out, but between Minho's job and Yuna's part-time work, they managed. Life was not good, but it was stable. Minho tried not to think about what might have been, tried not to imagine himself working on cutting-edge starship designs instead of replacing power cells and broken data pads. Then, on an ordinary Tuesday evening, his terminal chimed with an incoming message. Minho almost ignored it, assuming it was spam. But something made him check. The message was from Stellar Dynamics Corporation. Minho's heart jumped. Had they reconsidered? Was there another opening? He opened the message with shaking hands. Mr. Lee Minho, you are invited to return to Stellar Dynamics Corporation headquarters for a special consultation. Please arrive tomorrow at 10 a.m. Ask for Director Vec at the executive reception. This is a paid consultation. Transportation will be provided. Please confirm your attendance. Minho read it 3 times. Director Vec? The alien he saved had the same name. But that was impossible. That alien had been flying a small ship alone, clearly not someone important, wasn't it? What is it? Yuna asked, noticing his expression. I am not sure, Minho said slowly, but I think I might have a second chance. He sent his confirmation and spent the rest of the night wondering what tomorrow would bring. The encrypted file on his terminal blinked its usual error message, as mysterious as ever. But for the first time in 3 months, Minho felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. A sleek black vehicle waited outside Minho's apartment building at exactly 8 in the morning. The driver, a professional human in a crisp uniform, opened the door without a word. This was not a normal transit car. This was luxury transportation, the kind that people in the lower levels only saw in advertisements. The ride to Stellar Dynamics headquarters took 20 minutes through morning traffic that parted smoothly before them. Minho spent the entire trip staring out the window, his mind racing with questions. Why had they contacted him again? Who was Director Vec? And why did that name match the alien he had helped? When they arrived, Kim Ji-woo was waiting at the entrance. Her eyes widened when she saw him. Mr. Lee, welcome back. Please follow me. Her tone was completely different from their last meeting. She was almost nervous, treating him with a deference that made no sense. She led him not to the lower interview floors, but to the executive elevator. The one that only went up, way up. Where are we going? Minho asked as the elevator began its climb. To the executive suite, Ji-woo said. Director Vec is expecting you personally. I do not understand. Director Vec? Is that a common name among his species? Ji-woo gave him a strange look. There is only one Director Vec, the founder and CEO of Stellar Dynamics Corporation. The elevator doors opened before Minho could process that. They stepped into a reception area that took his breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the entire city. The furniture was elegant and clearly alien in design, accommodating multiple species. And there, standing by the window, was the crystalline being Minho had helped 3 months ago. Mr. Lee Minho, the alien said, and this time there was no translator needed. The voice came clear and precise from a device on its chest. Thank you for coming. Please sit. Minho's legs moved on autopilot. He sat in a chair that adjusted automatically to his height. Ji-woo bowed and left quickly, closing the door behind her. You are confused, Vec said. It was not a question. Very, Minho managed. You are the CEO, but you were alone in that ship. You seemed helpless, in trouble. Vec's faceted head tilted in what might have been amusement. I was. The situation was real. The danger was real. My ship truly was failing. I do not understand. Vec walked closer, his crystalline body chiming softly with each step. Let me explain. 3 months ago, there were 3 final candidates for the junior engineer position. You were one. The other 2 were also talented, also qualified. On paper, all 3 of you were equally good. Minho nodded slowly. So how did you choose? I did not choose based on interviews, Vec said. I chose based on character. And character can only be revealed through testing. Real testing, not questions in a comfortable office. Understanding began to dawn on Minho, cold and sharp. The crashed ship. That was a test? The crash was staged, yes. But the danger was absolutely real. If you had not helped, the core would have exploded. I would have died. Many others would have died. I do not test with fake danger. That tells me nothing. Minho felt anger rising in his chest. You manipulated me. You made me miss my interview. You made me lose the job. You made my sister and I suffer for 3 months. Yes, Vec said simply. He did not apologize or justify. He simply acknowledged the truth. Why? Minho demanded. Why would you do that? Because I needed to know what you would choose when everything was at stake. The other 2 candidates reached their interviews on time. They saw the crashed ship. They heard the calls for help. And they walked past. They chose their careers over the lives of strangers. Maybe they did not understand the danger. They understood, Vec said firmly. Both were engineers. Both knew what an unstable quantum core means. They chose not to act. They chose themselves. Minho wanted to stay angry, but something in Vec's words made him pause, and that disqualified them. Completely. I need engineers who will do the right thing even when it costs them everything. I need people who will risk their careers for principles, because the work we do here, the real work, requires that kind of character. Vec gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the air. It showed Minho working on the crashed ship, every movement, every decision captured from multiple angles. I watched you work. Your technical skill was excellent. You improvised with limited tools. You solved the problem in under an hour with no training on TAL technology. Impressive. The image shifted to show Minho checking his watch, seeing the time, and the visible pain on his face as he made the choice to continue helping. But this moment, this is what I needed to see. You knew you would lose everything. And you helped anyway. That was your entire test? Minho asked quietly. 3 months of hell for that? Not quite, Vec said. The hologram changed to show strings of data, code, encryption patterns. Do you recognize this? Minho's eyes widened. That is the encrypted file you gave me. Yes, it contained complete diagnostic data from my ship repair. Every decision you made, every technique you used, all recorded and analyzed. My engineers have been studying it for 3 months. Your assessment report is remarkable. Vec gestured again and walls of text appeared. Technical analysis, psychological evaluation, skill assessments, all about Minho. The conclusion at the end glowed in bright letters. Exceptional technical ability. More importantly, exceptional character. Recommend highest level recruitment. 3 months, Minho repeated, still processing everything. You let me believe I failed for 3 months. You let me work in a repair shop fixing broken data pads. You let my sister worry about money while I tried to hold our lives together. I did, Vec agreed. And I watched how you handled it. You did not become bitter. You worked hard even at a simple job. You treated your employer with respect. You continued studying in your free time, trying to crack my encryption. You took care of your sister. You remained who you were despite your circumstances. Vec's crystalline form seemed to shimmer with an emotion Minho could not identify. Character shown in good times means nothing. Character shown when you have lost everything, when you believe you have no future, when no one is watching to reward you. That is real character. That is what I needed to see. So this whole time you were watching me? Yes, I had to be certain. The position I am offering you is not the junior engineer role you originally applied for. Minho blinked. What? That position was entry-level. Simple work, not worthy of your abilities or your character. Vec walked to the window, looking out over the city. I am offering you a place on my personal engineering team. We work on experimental projects. Classified research, technology that will not be public for decades. You would work directly with me and 11 other engineers from 7 different species. The scope of what Vec was saying hit Minho like a physical blow. This was not just a job. This was something beyond his wildest dreams. Why? Minho asked. Why go through all this for one employee? Because the galaxy needs people like you, Vec said. Humanity is new to the Galactic Commerce Union. Many species doubt you. They see you as too emotional, too unpredictable, too bound by principles that seem irrational to them. They do not understand that these traits are not weaknesses, they are strengths. Vec turned back to face Minho. I have tested beings across dozens of species. Do you know how many would have done what you did? Less than 5%. Most choose themselves. They calculate odds and benefits. They see strangers and walk away. But not you. You saw someone in trouble and you acted. Any decent person would have done the same. No, Vec said firmly. They would not. That is the tragedy of the galaxy. Decency is rare. Compassion is rare. And finding someone who combines both with exceptional technical skill, that is worth 3 months of testing. Minho sat in silence, trying to process everything. The anger was still there, but mixed with confusion and a growing understanding. And if I refuse? If I tell you that your methods are wrong, that I cannot work for someone who would manipulate people like this, then you refuse, Vec said simply. The job offer remains open for 48 hours. Use that time to decide. And understand this, I will not try to convince you. If you cannot accept my methods, then you should not work here. This team requires trust, and trust must go both ways. Vec pressed something on his desk and a credit transfer notification appeared on Minho's terminal. This compensates you for the hardship during the testing period. Your actual wages plus interest plus emotional compensation. Whether you take the job or not, this is yours. You earned it. Minho looked at the number and felt dizzy. It was more money than he would make in 2 years at the repair shop. 48 hours, Vec repeated. Think carefully. Talk to people you trust. Make the right decision for yourself, not the decision you think I want to hear. Minho stood on shaking legs. I need to go. Of course. The car will take you anywhere you wish. Minho walked to the door in a daze. Before leaving, he turned back. Answer me honestly. Do you regret it? The pain your tests cause? Vec's crystalline body refracted the morning light into rainbow patterns across the walls. Every single time. But I regret more the galaxy that would exist if I valued punctuality over principle. Minho spent the rest of that day walking through the city. He did not take the car home. He needed time to think, to process everything that had happened. The morning's revelations kept spinning through his mind like a loop that would not stop. Vec had tested him, watched him, let him struggle, all deliberately, all part of some grand evaluation that Minho never agreed to be part of. The anger about that was real and justified, but under the anger was something else, a reluctant understanding, a growing realization that maybe, in some strange alien way, Vec's methods made sense. When Minho finally returned home that evening, Yuna took one look at his face and made tea. They sat together in their small kitchen while he told her everything. So the alien you saved owns the entire company, Yuna said slowly when he finished. And he has been watching you this whole time. Testing you. Yes. That is creepy, Yuna said bluntly, but also kind of brilliant. Brilliant? Minho stared at his sister. He manipulated me. Made me suffer. Made us both suffer. Did he though? Yuna asked. Or did he just not interfere with consequences you chose yourself? You could have walked past that ship. You chose to help. Yes, he created the situation, but your choice was your own. You are defending him. I am trying to understand him, Yuna corrected. He is not human, Minho. Maybe for his species this kind of testing is normal. Maybe it is not cruelty but thoroughness. He needed to know who you really are, not who you pretend to be in an interview. Minho wanted to argue but found he could not. Yuna had a point. Humans tested people too. Job trials, probation periods, background checks. Vec's method was just more extreme. More honest in its way, perhaps. It revealed truth that an interview never could. What should I do? Minho asked. That is your choice, Yuna said. But Minho, this is an incredible opportunity. Working on experimental technology? Being part of something bigger? That is what you always wanted. But can I trust him? Can any of us trust our employers completely? Yuna shrugged. At least with Vec, you know exactly what kind of person he is. He showed you. He did not hide his methods or lie about his reasons. That is more honesty than most bosses give. That night, Minho did research. He looked up everything he could find about stellar dynamics, about Vec, about the Tal species. The information painted an interesting picture. Vec had founded Stellar Dynamics over 60 years ago. The company had an exceptional reputation for innovation and integrity. Former employees across dozens of species spoke highly of working there. The pay was excellent, the projects were challenging, and the company treated people fairly. More interesting were the stories about Vec's recruitment methods. Apparently, this was not unusual for him. There were forums where people discussed their experiences. Some had been tested and passed. Some had been tested and failed. Some had figured out they were being tested and refused to participate. But everyone agreed on one thing. Those who joined Vec's teams never regretted it. The work was meaningful, the environment was supportive, and Vec himself, despite his strange methods, was fair and respectful to his employees. Minho also found articles about humanity's integration into the Galactic Commerce Union. The picture was complicated. Many alien species viewed humans with suspicion, too emotional, some said, too aggressive, others claimed, too unpredictable, most agreed. Human workers in galactic companies often faced discrimination. Lower pay, harder scrutiny, fewer opportunities for advancement. The galaxy, it seemed, was not sure what to make of these strange beings from Earth who let feelings guide their choices. But a few articles stood out. Think pieces by progressive alien commentators who argued that humanity's emotional nature was actually valuable, that the galaxy had become too cold, too calculating. That human compassion and intuition brought something necessary that had been missing. Vec, Minho realized, was one of those believers. He saw value in human nature that most aliens dismissed. The next morning, a visitor arrived at Minho's apartment. The man introduced himself as Park Hyunwoo, the human director who had conducted the original interviews 3 months ago. Minho recognized him immediately. "May I come in?" Hyunwoo asked politely. They sat in the small living room. Hyunwoo looked around with kind eyes that held no judgment about the cramped space. "You are wondering about Vec's offer," he said. "And you are angry about the test." "Yes," Minho admitted. "I was too," Hyunwoo said. "When it happened to me, 7 years ago I was tested just like you. Different scenario, same purpose. Vec wanted to know who I was when everything was at stake. And you stayed? Even after that?" "I almost did not," Hyunwoo admitted. "I felt manipulated and angry. But then I realized something. Vec did not test me to be cruel. He tested me because he needed to know if I would hold to my values under pressure. That trait is desperately needed in the galaxy." Hyunwoo leaned forward, his expression serious. "Listen, Minho, the galaxy is complicated. Politics between species, corporate intrigue, ethical compromises everywhere you look. Most companies want employees who will follow orders without question, who will look the other way when something wrong happens, who will choose profit over principle. And Vec does not. Vec needs the opposite. People who will stand up and say no when something is wrong. People who cannot be corrupted or intimidated. People who will risk their careers for what is right. Because the work his inner team does, it matters. Decisions we make affect billions of beings across multiple star systems. That is a lot of pressure." "It is," Hyunwoo agreed, "but it is also meaningful. I have worked for Vec for 7 years. I have never been asked to compromise my values. I have never been asked to do something that made me ashamed." "Can you say that about most jobs?" Minho thought about his research, about the stories from former employees, about the reputation Stellar Dynamics had earned. "No," he admitted. "I cannot. Vec's methods are alien," Hyunwoo said. "They are not human methods. They can seem harsh, but they come from genuine need. He has to know who you are because he cannot afford to get it wrong. Too much depends on the people he chooses." After Hyunwoo left, Minho sat with his terminal and finally, after 3 months of trying, managed to decrypt the final file from Vec's data chip. He had been approaching it wrong all along. It was not a complex encryption. It was a simple one that required patience, not cleverness. A test in itself, perhaps. Inside the file were detailed notes. Vec's personal observations about every decision Minho had made during the ship repair. The notes were written with genuine admiration and respect. No judgment about the techniques Minho used, only interest in his problem-solving approach. At the end was a single line that made Minho pause. "This human shows what his species can be. Worth the risk. Worth the trust." That evening, Minho met with Kang Minji at a small restaurant near the spaceport. He needed advice from someone who understood life in the broader galaxy. "So the big question," Minji said after he explained everything, "can you work for someone whose methods you find questionable?" "I do not know," Minho said honestly. "Part of me is still angry. Part of me understands why he did it. I am confused." "Let me ask you something," Minji said. "When you were working at Daejin's shop fixing simple electronics, were you bitter about it?" "No. The work needed doing." "Did you treat Daejin poorly because you felt the job was beneath you?" "Of course not. He gave me work when I needed it. Did you stop studying? Stop trying to improve yourself?" "No, I kept learning." "Then you already passed Vec's test," Minji said with a smile. "He was not just watching your technical skills. He was watching your character. And you showed him exactly what he needed to see, that you remain yourself regardless of circumstances." "But his methods are alien," Minji interrupted. "And you know what? The galaxy is full of aliens. If you want to work out there, you need to accept that not everyone will think like a human. Not everyone will care about human feelings the way you do, but that does not make them evil. Just different." She took a sip of her drink. "Vec could have just hired you based on credentials. Instead, he spent 3 months and significant resources making sure you were right for the team. That is not cruelty. That is being extremely careful about an important decision. You think I should take the job? I think you will regret it forever if you do not," Minji said. "This is your chance to prove what humans can do. To show the galaxy that we are not just emotional and unpredictable. that our compassion is a strength, not a weakness. Are you really going to walk away from that because your pride is hurt? That night, Minho lay awake thinking about everything. The anger had faded, replaced by something like acceptance. Vec was not human. His methods were not human methods, but his intentions seemed genuine. He had not lied or hidden the truth. He had been direct about his reasons, and more than that, the opportunity itself was incredible. Working on experimental technology, being part of something that would shape the future, proving that humanity deserved its place in the galaxy. His pride was hurt. His feelings were bruised. But Yuna was right. Vec had not forced any of his choices. He had simply created situations and watched what Minho chose to do. And Minho had chosen compassion over self-interest, had chosen to keep his integrity even when no one was watching to reward it. Maybe that was worth something after all. The next morning, with 30 minutes left before Vec's deadline, Minho stood outside Stellar Dynamics headquarters. Vec was waiting in his office, standing by the same window where they had talked 2 days before. He turned when Minho entered. "You came," the alien said simply. "I did," Minho replied. "But I need to say something first." "Speak." "I will take the job, but I will do it my way, with honesty from the start. If that is a problem, we will find out early. I will not play games or tests or manipulations. I will give you my best work and my honest opinions. That is all I can promise." Vec's crystalline body shimmered with what Minho was learning to recognize as approval. "That is exactly why I chose you. Welcome to the team, Minho." The first month was overwhelming. Vec's personal engineering team worked in a secure facility, 3 levels below the main building. The space was massive, filled with equipment Minho had only seen in technical journals. The technology here was decades ahead of anything available to the public. There were 12 members on the team now, including Minho. Each person came from a different species, each bringing unique perspectives and skills. The introductions took a full day. Han Jisoo was the other human on the team, a materials scientist who specialized in exotic alloys. She was 30 years old and had been with Vec for 2 years. "He tested me too," she told Minho privately. "Made me choose between a family emergency and a critical deadline. I chose family. Turns out that was the right answer." The others were equally impressive. There was Realm, a Quinn engineer with 4 arms who obsessed over precision down to the molecular level. There was Bith, a moth who could perceive energy fields humans could not even detect. There was Cross, a Tellan whose mathematical intuition bordered on precognition. Each had been tested. Each had passed. Each had chosen principle over personal gain at some crucial moment. This, Minho realized, was not just a team of skilled engineers. It was a team of people Vec could trust completely. The current project was ambitious beyond anything Minho had imagined. They were developing a hybrid quantum drive system that combined technologies from 5 different species. If successful, it would cut interstellar travel time by 40% and use half the energy of current systems. "This is impossible," Minho said on his 3rd day, staring at the design specifications. "It was impossible," Jisoo corrected with a smile. "We have been working on it for 18 months. We are getting close. The learning curve was steep." Minho worked 16-hour days just to catch up with concepts the others had mastered years ago. The mathematics alone was challenging enough. Adding in the physics of quantum space and the engineering constraints of building something that would not explode under stress, and Minho felt like he was drowning. But he did not complain. He studied. He asked questions. He made mistakes and learned from them. And slowly, very slowly, he began to understand. Vec watched but did not interfere. He let Minho struggle, let him fail, let him find his own way. When Minho made a breakthrough, Vec acknowledged it. When Minho hit a wall, Vec pointed him toward resources but made him do the work himself. "You are hard on him." Jisoo commented one evening when Vec had just finished criticizing Minho's approach to a containment problem. "I am fair to him," Vec corrected. "He needs to grow. Praise when unearned is worthless. Criticism when deserved is valuable." 2 months into the job, the team hit a major problem. The quantum field generators would not synchronize properly. No matter what they tried, there was a 0.03-second delay between activation sequences. It seemed tiny, but in quantum space, that delay meant the difference between controlled travel and catastrophic failure. They had been working on this problem for 3 weeks. Everyone was frustrated. Tempers were getting short. During one meeting, Reln suggested abandoning the current approach entirely and starting over with a different design philosophy. Minho, who had been quiet during most meetings as the newest member, suddenly spoke up. "What if we are thinking about this wrong?" Everyone turned to look at him. "Explain," Vec said. "We are trying to synchronize the generators," Minho said, standing and moving to the holographic display. "But what if we do not need them perfectly synchronized? What if the delay is actually a feature, not a bug?" "That makes no sense," Reln objected. "The delay causes instability." "In current designs, yes," Minho agreed. "But what if we design the system to use that delay? Create a cascading effect instead of a simultaneous one? Like waves building on each other instead of hitting all at once?" He manipulated the display, showing his idea visually. Instead of all generators firing together, they would fire in sequence, each one building on the momentum of the previous. The delay would become part of the design, not a flaw to fix. The room went silent. Everyone stared at the display. Then Cross began running calculations, his multiple limbs moving in a blur across his interface. "The mathematics work," he said slowly. "It is unconventional, but it works." Bith examined the energy flows. "The efficiency might actually improve. The cascading effect could reduce waste heat." Jisoo looked at the materials requirements. "We would need to redesign the housing, but it is feasible." Vec studied the display for a long moment. Then his crystalline body chimed with what Minho now recognized as approval. 3 weeks we have stared at this problem. 3 weeks of trying to fix the delay, and the solution was to embrace it. Well done, Minho. For the next month, the team worked on implementing Minho's cascading approach. It required rethinking fundamental assumptions about how quantum drives operated. There were setbacks and dead ends. But slowly the design came together. During this time, Minho noticed something important. His approach, his human way of thinking, was different from the others. Where they saw problems requiring logical solutions, he saw possibilities requiring creative reimagining. Where they calculated optimal approaches, he trusted intuition and took risks. At first, this difference frustrated some team members. Reln especially seemed irritated by what he called Minho's imprecise methodology. But Vec encouraged it. "We need different perspectives," Vec told the team during one meeting. "If we all think the same way, we will only find the same solutions. Minho's human intuition may seem irrational, but it lets him see connections we miss." The statement surprised Minho. He had always thought his emotional, instinctive approach to engineering was a weakness, something to overcome, but Vec saw it as a strength, a unique capability that complemented the team's other skills. Life outside work improved as well. With his new salary, Minho moved Yuna to a better apartment in the mid-levels where actual sunlight reached. She enrolled in a good school. For the first time in years, they did not have to worry about money. Minho stayed in touch with his old life. He visited Daejin at the repair shop regularly, sometimes helping with particularly difficult problems. He met with Minji whenever she was planetside, sharing stories about his work without revealing classified details. These connections kept him grounded, reminded him where he came from. Vec noticed this too and approved. "Success ruins many people," the alien said once. "They forget who they were." "You have not forgotten." "Good." 6 months after joining the team, disaster struck. The prototype drive system they had been building suffered a catastrophic failure during testing. The explosion destroyed months of work and damaged the testing facility. No one was hurt, but the project was set back significantly. Investigation revealed the cause was not a design flaw or an error in construction. It was sabotage. Someone had deliberately modified the containment protocols to cause a failure. The revelation stunned the team. One of Vec's carefully chosen and tested engineers, had betrayed them. Security began investigating everyone, checking communications, reviewing access logs. Suspicion poisoned the air. Minho watched the team, his new family, begin to fracture under pressure. Reln accused the humans of being security risks because of their emotional nature. Bith questioned whether anyone could be trusted. Even Jisoo, normally calm and friendly, became withdrawn and suspicious. Vec called a meeting. His crystalline form seemed darker, heavier with the weight of betrayal. "Someone on this team has chosen to harm us," he said. "I need to know who. I need to know why. Until then, all project work is suspended." "Suspended?" Cross said. "But we are so close to completion." "What good is completion if we cannot trust each other?" Vec replied. Trust is the foundation of everything we do. Without it, we have nothing. Minho listened to the meeting devolve into arguments and accusations. He thought about everything he had learned, everything Vec had taught him about character and choices. And he thought about what his human perspective might see that others missed. After the meeting, he approached Vec privately. I want to help with the investigation. You are the newest member, Vec said. You have the least access, the least knowledge of our systems. Why would you be able to help? Because I think differently, Minho said. You told me that my human intuition was valuable. Let me use it now. Let me look at this problem the way a human would, not the way a logical being would. Vec studied him for a moment, then nodded slowly. Very well. You will work with security. Show me what human intuition can accomplish. The investigation consumed the next 2 weeks. Security went through every access log, every communication, every piece of data from the months leading up to the sabotage. Minho worked alongside them, but he approached the problem differently. While security looked for evidence of who had physical access to the prototype, Minho looked at motivation. Who would benefit from this failure? And more importantly, why would someone Vec had so carefully chosen betray him? You are wasting time, the head of security, a stern Grath named Kel, told him. We need evidence, not psychological theories. Evidence tells you who, Minho countered, but understanding why tells you if you found the right who. He spent hours reviewing the team's communications, not looking for suspicious messages but for patterns. How people interacted, who seemed stressed or anxious, who had changed their behavior in recent months. One name kept appearing in his analysis. Thask, a senior Vortan engineer who had been with Vec for over 20 years. Thask was quiet, methodical, and had access to everything. He had helped design half the systems currently in use at Stellar Dynamics. But Thask also showed signs of stress in recent months. Shorter messages, less participation in group discussions, small errors in his work that were unusual for someone of his experience and precision. Thask, Kel said when Minho presented his findings. Impossible. He is Vec's longest-serving team member. His loyalty is beyond question. That is exactly why I think it might be him, Minho said.
He has the most to lose if something changes.
And we change things when humans join the team. That is speculation. Yes, Minho agreed. But I am human. I understand what it feels like when your world changes in ways you did not ask for. Let me talk to him. Kel refused at first, but Vec overruled him. Let Minho try his way, the CEO said. We have tried the logical approach. Now we try the human one. Minho found Thask in the materials lab, working alone on component analysis. The Vortan looked up with his large, dark eyes. Minho, what brings you here? I need to talk to you, Minho said, sitting down without waiting for permission. About the sabotage. Thask's posture stiffened slightly. I have already spoken to security. Multiple times, I know. But I want to talk not as an investigator, but as a colleague. Human to Vortan, person to person. I do not understand the distinction. Security wants to find evidence, Minho explained. I want to understand feelings. You have been with Vec for 20 years. This team was your family. Then humans joined. How did that make you feel? The question seemed to surprise Thask. No one had asked him about feelings. They had only asked about facts, access, evidence. It does not matter how I felt. It matters to me, Minho said gently, because I know what it is like when things change. When your world shifts and suddenly everything you knew is different. It is frightening. Something in Thask's expression shifted. The rigid defensiveness cracked slightly. You are very new here. You do not understand. Then help me understand. Thask was silent for a long moment. Then slowly he began to speak. Vec created something special here. A team built on principles, on trust, on careful selection of people who shared his values. For 20 years I was part of that. I believed in it. I helped build it. And then humans came. Yes, Thask said, his voice barely above a whisper. Humans. Emotional, unpredictable, driven by feelings instead of logic. Everything we had worked to build, everything that made this team special, I saw it threatened by your presence. So you tried to make us fail, Minho said. It was not an accusation, just a statement. I did not mean for the explosion, Thask said quickly. I only wanted to delay the project. To show Vec that involving humans was a mistake. That their methods do not work. That we should return to the way things were. But the explosion happened anyway. Yes. Thask's voice cracked. I modified the containment protocols, just a small change. It should have caused a minor malfunction, nothing dangerous. But I miscalculated. Your human approach, Minho. Your cascading design, it interacted with my modifications in ways I did not predict. The result was catastrophic. You could have killed people. I know. Thask stood abruptly, his hands shaking. I know. And that knowledge has been destroying me. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I just wanted to protect what we had. To keep things as they were. To stop the change, Minho stood as well, but slowly, carefully. Thask, I understand. Change is terrifying. But you cannot stop it. You can only choose how you respond to it. I chose wrong. Thask said miserably. I see that now. I betrayed everything I believed in because I was afraid. I betrayed Vec, who trusted me for 20 years. I endangered my team, my family, because I could not accept that the family was growing. Why did you not just talk to Vec? Tell him your concerns? Because I knew what he would say, Thask replied. That diversity makes us stronger. That different perspectives create better solutions. That fear of change is natural but cannot guide our choices. He would have been right and I would have had to accept it. I was not ready to accept it. Minho activated his communicator. Kel, I found our saboteur. It is Thask. He is confessing voluntarily. Within minutes, security arrived. Thask did not resist. He explained everything, providing complete details of what he had done and why. His confession was calm, almost relieved. Like someone who had been carrying a terrible weight and was finally allowed to set it down. Vec arrived as Thask was being escorted away. The alien stood in silence, watching his longest-serving team member leave in disgrace. His crystalline body seemed to dim, as if the light inside him had faded. 20 years, Vec said quietly. I thought I knew him. I thought I had tested him well enough. You did, Minho said. He made the right choice 20 years ago. But people change. Fear changes people. He was not strong enough to face his fear. Are any of us? Some are, Minho replied. You are. You faced your fear of getting the wrong person. By creating tests that are uncomfortable and controversial, you risked being seen as cruel because you needed to know the truth. That takes strength. Vec turned to look at Minho. How did you know it was Thask? I did not know for certain, Minho admitted. But I understood how he might feel. When humans joined your team, we changed the dynamic. We brought new methods, new ways of thinking. To someone who had been here for 20 years, who had built their identity around the old way, that would be threatening. Your human empathy, Vec said. That is what let you see what security missed. Yes. Logic looks at evidence. Empathy looks at feelings. Both are necessary. The team was called together for an emergency meeting. Vec stood before them, his form still dimmed with sorrow. Thask has confessed to the sabotage. He acted alone. His motivation was fear of change, specifically fear of human influence on our team. Shocked silence filled the room. Thask had been a pillar of the team, respected by everyone. His betrayal cut deep. This is my failure, Vec continued. I created an environment where someone felt they could not voice their concerns, where fear grew in silence until it became action. I take responsibility for that. But Thask made his choice, Relin objected. He chose betrayal. He chose fear, Vec corrected. And I did not see it, did not address it. That is on me, Jisoo spoke up. What happens now? Now we rebuild, Vec said. Not just the prototype, but the trust within this team. We acknowledge that integration is difficult, that different species have different perspectives and fears. That change, even positive change, can be threatening to those comfortable with the old ways. He turned to face everyone directly. I am asking each of you to be honest about your concerns. If you fear that human methods will undermine our work, say so. If you believe that emotional thinking has no place in engineering, say so. If you are uncomfortable with any aspect of how this team operates, say so. I would rather hear uncomfortable truths than comfortable lies. The meeting that followed was difficult. Relin admitted that he found human imprecision frustrating and sometimes questioned their competence. Others expressed similar concerns. But they also acknowledged moments when human intuition had helped solve problems that logic could not crack. Jisoo and Minho, representing humanity, admitted that sometimes they felt they had to prove themselves more than others, that they sensed skepticism from some team members, that the pressure to represent their entire species was exhausting. It was painful, uncomfortable, honest conversation. But by the end, Everyone understood each other better. The fear and suspicion began to ease, replaced by understanding if not complete agreement. Later, Vec called Minho to his office. You found Thask when security could not. You understood his motivation when no one else did. That was impressive work. I just thought like a human, Minho said. Used empathy instead of pure logic. Yes, and that is exactly what makes your species valuable. Vec moved to the window looking out over the city. The galaxy operates on logic, efficiency, calculated benefit. These things are important, but they are not everything. Your species remembers that. You lead with your hearts even when your heads say otherwise, and is that good or bad? It is necessary, Vec replied. The galaxy has become cold. We calculate everything, optimize everything, remove emotion from every decision. We have gained efficiency but lost something important: compassion, understanding. The willingness to help someone even when there is no logical benefit. He turned back to Minho. That is why I test humans. The press conference was scheduled for the following week. The communications team tried to convince Vec to reconsider, arguing that admitting internal sabotage would destroy investor confidence and give competitors ammunition. But Vec stood firm on the decision. We tell the truth, he said simply. All of it. The day of the conference, media from across the Galactic Commerce Union attended. The room was filled with journalists from dozens of species, cameras, recording devices, and a palpable sense of anticipation. Something big was happening at Stellar Dynamics, and everyone wanted the story. Vec stood at the podium, Minho and Jisoo flanking him on one side, the rest of the engineering team on the other. The crystalline CEO's form refracted the lights into rainbow patterns across the walls. Thank you for coming, Vec began, his translator broadcasting in multiple languages simultaneously. I have called this conference to discuss a recent incident at Stellar Dynamics. 3 weeks ago, our prototype hybrid quantum drive suffered a catastrophic failure during testing. I am here to tell you that this failure was not accidental. It was sabotage. The room erupted in noise. Journalists shouted questions. Cameras flashed. Vec waited patiently for silence to return. The saboteur was one of my own team members, Vec continued, a senior engineer who had been with the company for 20 years. His motivation was fear, specifically, fear of change brought by the integration of human engineers into our team. More shouting, more questions. Vec raised a hand for silence. We could have hidden this, claimed equipment failure or design flaws. Instead, we choose honesty. Because this incident reveals something important about the challenges of multi-species integration. It is not easy. It is not comfortable. It brings conflicts and fears that must be addressed. Vec gestured to Minho. This is Lee Minho, one of our human engineers. He joined the team 8 months ago. He was the one who identified the saboteur by understanding his emotional motivation, something our traditional security methods missed. His human empathy saw what logic could not. Minho felt hundreds of eyes on him. Cameras focused on his face. He resisted the urge to hide behind Vec's crystalline form. The Galactic Commerce Union debates whether humanity belongs, Vec said, whether humans are too emotional, too unpredictable for galactic business. I am here to say that these traits, when properly valued, are not weaknesses but strengths. Human intuition, human compassion, human willingness to act on feeling rather than pure calculation. These qualities are precisely what the galaxy needs. A journalist, a Talaxian with multiple eye stalks, shouted a question. Are you saying the sabotage was justified? That concerns about human involvement are valid? I am saying the concerns were real, Vec replied carefully. But the response to those concerns was wrong. Change is frightening. Integration is difficult. But fear cannot guide our choices. We must face change with courage, not sabotage it from the shadows. Another journalist asked, What happens to your project now? Is the hybrid drive dead? The hybrid drive is very much alive, Vec said. We have rebuilt the prototype. We have addressed the security issues. And we have had difficult, honest conversations about the tensions within our team. We are stronger now because we chose to face our problems directly, rather than pretend they do not exist. The conference lasted 2 hours. Vec answered every question with complete honesty. He did not minimize Thask's actions or make excuses. He acknowledged the very real challenges of integrating different species with different values. But he also emphasized that these challenges were worth facing because diversity created better results than homogeneity. When it was over, Minho felt drained. Jisoo looked equally exhausted. They had stood there representing humanity, while journalists picked apart every word, every implication. That was brutal, Jisoo said as they left the stage. That was necessary, Vec corrected. The galaxy needed to see that we do not hide our failures, that we learn from them. The reaction across the galactic media was immediate and divided. Conservative outlets criticized Stellar Dynamics for poor security and for prioritizing political correctness over competence. They used the incident as evidence that humans were indeed a destabilizing influence. But progressive outlets praised the company's transparency. They highlighted Vec's willingness to admit mistakes and his emphasis on addressing prejudice directly. Opinion pieces appeared arguing that Stellar Dynamics had shown more integrity in one press conference than most corporations showed in a lifetime. More interestingly, responses came from unexpected places. Other companies began reaching out to hire human engineers, curious about the unique perspectives Vec had described. Universities across multiple systems invited human guest lecturers to teach about Earth's approach to problem solving. The incident, meant to prove humans did not belong, had instead sparked curiosity about what humans could offer. Within Stellar Dynamics, the aftermath was complex. Some team members left, uncomfortable with the publicity or the new direction. Others, like Realm, stayed but demanded changes in how decisions were made. The team had to rebuild not just the prototype but their working relationships. It took 3 more months of intensive work. Long days, difficult conversations, compromise, and collaboration, but slowly the hybrid drive came together. The cascading activation sequence that Minho had proposed worked beautifully. The integration of different species technologies created something none of them could have achieved alone. The day of the final test arrived. The prototype sat in the secure testing facility, sleek and perfect. The entire team gathered in the observation room. Even some who had left came back to witness the culmination of 2 years of work. Beck stood at the control console. "This drive represents more than technology," he said. "It represents what we can accomplish when we embrace differences instead of fearing them. When we lead with courage instead of comfort. When we choose honesty over image." He looked at Minho. "Would you like to do the honors?" Minho stepped forward, his hand hovering over the activation control. He thought about everything that had led to this moment. The crashed ship at the transit station. The missed interview. 3 months of poverty and doubt. The choice that cost him everything and gave him more than he imagined. "For humanity," he said softly and pressed the button. The drive hummed to life. Energy patterns flowed through it in cascading waves exactly as designed. The readings were perfect. The efficiency exceeded projections. The system was stable, controlled, beautiful in its precision. The room erupted in celebration. Engineers from multiple species embraced, cheered, and congratulated each other. They had done it. They had created something revolutionary. Minho felt Vec's hand on his shoulder. The crystalline being's form glowed brightly with satisfaction. "Well done," Vec said. "All of you." The hybrid drive was publicly demonstrated 2 weeks later. This time, the media coverage was overwhelmingly positive. The technology worked flawlessly, cutting travel time between star systems by 43%. Companies across the galaxy immediately began negotiating for licensing rights. But more important than the commercial success was what it represented. Proof that multi-species collaboration could produce results impossible for any single species. Proof that different ways of thinking, when combined respectfully, created something greater than the sum of their parts. Humanity's reputation in the Galactic Commerce Union shifted dramatically. What had been skepticism became cautious interest. What had been rejection became opportunity. Dozens of galactic companies began actively recruiting human talent. For Minho personally, life transformed in ways he never imagined. He moved Yuna to a beautiful apartment in the upper levels where sunlight poured through floor-to-ceiling windows. She enrolled in the best academy on Earth, studying xenobiology with dreams of working off-world someday. Minji got a contract with Stellar Dynamics to test new ship designs. Dejin was hired as a consultant for what Vec called unconventional problem-solving approaches. Even Park Hyunwoo, the director who had originally rejected Minho's late arrival, became a close friend and mentor. 1 year after joining Vec's team, Minho was promoted to Director of Human Integration. His job was to help recruit and support human employees not just at Stellar Dynamics, but across the galactic business community. He worked with universities to prepare Earth students for off-world careers. He consulted with companies struggling to integrate human workers effectively, and he helped design new recruitment processes. Working with VEC, they created tests that maintained the spirit of what VEC had always sought, character revealed under pressure, but with more transparency and support. Candidates knew they were being evaluated. They understood what was being tested. The manipulation was removed, replaced with honest challenge. 5 years after that day at the transit station, Minho stood in VEC's office, now a familiar and comfortable space. They were reviewing applications for a new project, the first jointly designed human-alien starship. The goal was to create a vessel that incorporated the best of multiple species approaches to space travel. "This one is interesting," VEC said, highlighting an application. "Strong credentials, excellent recommendations, but from the lower levels of Mumbai,